Hello, this is Brian. Today is Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. I'm here in Navajo Canyon Open Space Park here in San Diego, just west of Mission Trails Regional Park. Today it's time for a Spotlight on Shrubs video. Today is a very long-awaited episode of this, for me at least, because I want to spotlight this beautiful large shrub slash occasional small tree. And this is Torrey's hybrid oak. This is Quercus acutidens. It is written as Quercus X acutidens. And it is a white oak. It's a member of the Leucobalanus slash Quercus section of the Beech family, the Fagaceae. So here you have it. This is Torrey's hybrid scrub oak. It's anywhere from a medium-sized shrub to a very large shrub, and sometimes a small tree. And it can be locally common, especially here in San Diego County, where I am, is again in the city of San Diego, the Navajo Canyon. And it's a very handsome, well-developed, rugged shrub slash small tree that sometimes can get quite large, and it is closely related to the other scrub oaks found here in Southern California, as those are almost all white oaks as well. They are in, again, the section Quercus slash Leucobalanus. So these are related to the coastal scrub oaks that are also found in this area, Quercus dumosa, which are restricted mostly to coastal San Diego and far southern Orange County, and also closely related to the other major scrub oak, which is much more widespread in the state, and that's Quercus berbertifolia. However, I did mention that this is a hybrid oak. It has hybrid status. However, I'll go more into detail momentarily about that. As I mentioned, this is Torrey's hybrid oak, or also called Torrey's scrub oak. And it is a stable, reproducing on its own, meaning it basically reproduces on its own without the hybrid parents. And its hybrid parents are two very different oaks, but are still white oaks, and the one parent is the shrub that is not even found here. You have to go to the Laguna Mountains to find it. That's the nearest population, and that is Muller Scrub Oak. Quercus cornelius-mulleri is one of the parents of this now self-reproducing hybrid. And then the other parent is one that's found a little bit closer, but not quite exactly so much in this area, and that is Engelmann Oak, Quercus engelmannii, which is a much larger oak. It's a tree. It's a tree oak, a small to medium-sized tree that occasionally gets quite large. So again, Quercus cornelius-mulleri, the Muller Scrub Oak of the desert side of our peninsular mountain ranges, like the Lagunas and stuff like that. And in the Engelmann oak, which is found more in our foothills here in San Diego County, Quercus engelmannii, which is a full-blown tree. So, now we're going to talk about some of the characteristics that make Quercus acutidens stand out. And again, being a scrub oak, and I've mentioned this on other videos, scrub oaks have very high amounts of variability in their structures. Their leaves, especially, their leaves confuse the heck out of botanists. They confuse me quite a bit. They confuse me a lot. And I'm just using this, knowing that these are Quercus acutidens due to the relative fluffiness underneath the leaves. Look carefully, you'll see the trichomes. To really get a sense of what the trichomes look like, you need a really good magnifying lens to really see them. But this does appear to have the intermediate characteristics of Quercus engelmannii and Quercus cornelius-mulleri. So Quercus cornelius-mulleri's leaves are kind of similar looking to these, only they're grayer because they have more trichomes on the upper side, the adaxial side of the leaf. And a lot of times they have a little bit of curling at the edge of the leaf. So the leaves are quite similar to cornelius-mulleri. It's one of its parents, which is the shrub found on the desert slopes and the ridge lines of the Laguna Mountains. And then it also has the size, occasionally the size of the leaves that are closer to the size of Engelmann oak leaves. Now you notice that these here are quite medium green. They don't really have a lot of the grayish characteristics you would expect on Engelmann oak, Quercus engelmannii, and Quercus cornelius-mulleri. Again, it's just a part of the variability aspect of Quercus acutidens. A Quercus acutidens can range from a medium green, like this, to a bright bluish gray green, much like its Engelmann oak parent. So it might have more of its Engelmann oak DNA in it. Sometimes the amount of DNA present in a hybrid, one hybrid individual, might be different than another hybrid individual. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot a few pictures of the leaves so you get an idea of quite the variability within this population here. So stay tuned for a few pictures of the leaves so we can show you how variable these leaves really are. So I'm hoping those pictures kind of gave you an idea of how quite variable the leaves are. Some of them are really tiny, really narrow. Some of them are wide and very wavy edged. So now we're going to go talk about the bark of Quercus acutidens. So the bark of Quercus acutidens is really not seriously distinct from a lot of the white oaks here in Southern California. And what I mean by that is the bark is very similar to pretty much all the scrub oaks that you find here. Quercus dumosa, Quercus cornelius-mulleri, Quercus burbatifolia, Quercus everything, pretty much all the white oaks, and even some of the deciduous white oak like Quercus garryana variety brewery, which is found in, you got to go up to LA County and Kern and Tulare counties to really see that one. But again, light to medium gray, furrowed with some flakiness on the furrows, occasional light flakiness. The furrows are quite thin, and this is a scrub oak also infers that they have large lignotubers. In other words, huge root burrows underneath here. So what happens is when these plants are cut down or burnt down by fire, you will see them send up these root sprouts. You see here, these are root sprouts. These are not seedlings. These are root suckers that come from these roots that are underneath the surface of the shrub. Now, unlike a lot of other chaparral plants, again, this plant is a member of the chaparral, oak woodland, and even coastal sage scrub habitats, Quercus acutidens. And it's also found up to at least, I believe, 4,000 feet in the mountains. So it goes from coast to foothills and even into the lower mountains. And chaparral is its preferred habitat, but you'll find it here in north-facing slopes and Toyon sumac scrub, and even in coastal sage scrub, you'll be looking at these small sages and sagebrushes and broombaccharis, and all of a sudden this big scrub oak pops out of seemingly nowhere. Now, unlike a lot of species of chaparral shrubs, the scrub oak does not need fire to reproduce. Scrub oaks can germinate whenever there's enough moisture in the soil. So scrub oaks are not dependent on fire to cause their seeds to germinate. So now we're talking about it being an oak. what kind of fruit does an oak have? Acorns. And of course, being that this is a true oak, there's no difference here. So you might have noticed a couple of acorn cups here and there. So these acorn cups are pretty shallow, thin, and they cover maybe about a third of the nut of the plant. So this is an acorn cup. Being that this is a white oak, the acorns on this ripen in one growing season. So anything that gets pollinated in March or April of this year will ripen in October or November of this year. So it's being a white oak, it's one growing season. So let's go see. There are some fallen acorns on the ground that I could show you. And the acorns are usually fairly small. You can see here, these are pretty typical size acorns. These are all acorns from last autumn. So they're pretty small, maybe up to about an inch, maybe an inch and a half long on some specimens. And this one seemed to have a pretty good acorn season. I do see a lot of acorn cups that look relatively recent here in the canopy of this shrub. So you notice I'm approaching this with very high levels of enthusiasm because I really love scrub oaks. I find scrub oaks to be incredibly beautiful, and their rugged nature and their sprawling ability and sometimes how big they can actually get just always amazes me. So here we go. Here's another acorn. So yeah, usually about medium brown. Sometimes they kind of ripen as a darker brown. Well, these acorns are definitely not fresh, as you can see here on the ground. But yeah, usually medium brown is usually the color when they ripen. So we're going to talk about the beautiful shape and size of these scrub oaks. These are some quite large specimens. I've seen them larger than this, and occasionally I've seen Quercus acutidens assume more of a tree form, being that a lot of times, sometimes it'll have one or two main trunks and be about 15-20 feet tall. So I've seen that before as well. But most of the time they're going to be multi-trunked, again, flaky bark, and they prefer these north-facing slopes here where they can sprawl out and have a lot of room to grow. So the larger ones of these will be found more so in north-facing slopes where there's more organic material and more room for their deep roots to grow to get to the moisture inside the soil. So that's why you'll see these more on north-facing slopes. When you do find them on ridge lines and south-facing slopes, they'll be a lot shorter. So these ones are very good-sized specimens. And we do have some acorn germination apparently here. Like I said, they do germinate from acorns quite readily. So these are acorn germinating ones here. And these scrub oaks create their own microclimate. It's very shady, very relaxed, very moisture retentive. So you're going to have a lot of stuff that goes on here. This is a good place for nurse plants to germinate, like other scrub oaks. And I believe these are toyon seedlings here. I think these are toyons. If I remember correctly, the cotyledons are oval on them. I think these are toyon seedlings here. Heteromeles are budifolia. So they make a good place for plants to germinate. And they also make a good spot for wood rat nests. Wood rats love these oaks where they have room to get down and build their nests. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop for a few photos, and then I will join you on the back half of this video where I explore some more of these beautiful Quercus acutidens. All right, so let's come outside of the shrubs a little bit. As we got one right here. So a lot of times when they're a little bit younger, a little bit more moderate sized, you'll see these kind of broad crowned shrubs that are quite upright at the base and rounded crown wise. So the crowns of the leaves are quite rounded on these oaks. So again, here's the outside of the crowns here of these scrub oaks. They form this very deep, beautiful woodland. Let's go to a really beautiful scrub oak over here. Well, they're all beautiful. But let's go to this one here. This one's even bigger. This is a big scrub oak. This one's actually more of a tree than a shrub. So here we are again. And of course we got more scrub oaks back here. This one seems to have just two main trunks. Beautiful scrub oak right here. So again, this is a Quercus acutidens. So you can just see the leaves are quite large. So again, these ones tend to be more of a medium green, but they can exhibit that grayish green, bluish grayish green of Engelmann oaks and the grayish green of its other hybrid parent, the Muller Scrub Oak. Okay, so now I was mentioning the term stable hybrid. I mentioned that a few times. So what do I really mean by that? Well, I very briefly mentioned that it is capable of reproducing on its own. Quercus acutidens reproduces on its own. It doesn't need an Engelmann oak, and it doesn't need a Muller Scrub Oak to make it reproduce. They reproduce themselves, as you saw there. Those little seedlings on the last portion of the video that I shot. So there are botanists that are considering dropping the X out of the name, Quercus X acutidens. They're thinking of maybe just labeling it as just Quercus acutidens, changing it from Torrey's hybrid scrub oak to just Torrey scrub oak. And which, again, that means it'll be just Quercus acutidens, not Quercus X acutidens. The title of my video will leave the X in it, but I did want to mention that that is what is in the works for the taxonomy of this species. Well, now likely becoming a species. Again, we're labeling this as a hybrid oak still. This one's got some slightly larger acorn cups, but again, acorn cups are not really large. And if you check out my video from July of last year, you'll see me at a Quercus acutidens that has more bluish grayish color foliage. And that's over in Del Mar near Crest Canyon Park. So keep an eye out for that video where I talk about a scrub oak over there that's quite large, like this one. Actually, I think a little bit larger. And it has the bluer color foliage, so it's got a little bit closer to its Engelmann oak lineage. So again, stable species, capable of reproducing on its own, eventually might lose hybrid status and just become a straight species in the names of taxonomy. And I did mention that these do occasionally come single trunked. Here we go. Here's one right here that takes on a single trunk. See this scrub oak here? This is a single trunk. This is not a coast live oak. This is another scrub oak that has a single trunk. This is another Quercus acutidens right here. So occasionally you will find them like that. I've seen that a couple times actually. If you take the trail leading from San Clemente Canyon up towards Stanley Community Park, you'll see one of these Quercus acutidens that has a single trunk. It looks like an Engelmann Oak tree. It really looks like an Engelmann Oak. And I was scratching my head when I saw it. So, check out that video. Yeah, these are toyon seedlings here. That's a toyon seedling. So we've got toyons germinating all in here. But yeah, again, absolutely gorgeous shrub to small tree. And now I'm going to talk about whether the leaves are evergreen or deciduous, because that's always a little on the complicated side with scrub oaks. The scrub oaks can be evergreen, they can be partially or even mostly deciduous. And the same can be said about Quercus acutidens. This one is primarily evergreen. Most of the ones around here are primarily evergreen, but sometimes they can exhibit some deciduous habits. They can shed some to most of their leaves in extreme drought, sometimes in very cold winters, maybe, occasionally. But sometimes in drought they can shed quite a bit of their leaves, and that comes from their Engelmann oak hybrid, or Engelmann oak parent, which can be drought deciduous, or sometimes even partially winter deciduous. But for the most part, quite quite persistently foliated throughout the year. Here's some larger leaves right here. You can tell the Engelmann oak, very much shaped like Engelmann oak leaves right here. So this is the example right here I was talking about, the leaf variability. The leaves on this are more like Engelmann oaks, except they don't have that bluish gray cast to them. Or at least this one doesn't. Other ones here in San Diego County do. Now, in my last portion, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the range of this plant, and we'll have some closing thoughts about this beautiful shrub. But I'm going to go ahead and get a few pictures, and I'll see you on the last portion of this video. All right. So, Quercus acutidens. It's kind of hard to say exactly the whole range of this plant, because places that have California scrub oaks, or reported to have California scrub oaks, Quercus burbidifolia, might actually have Quercus acutidens, because they are very hard to tell apart. You need to have an expert botanist to really tell them apart when they grow together. Like where I've been in Santa Barbara County in the Santa Ynez Mountains, where Quercus acutidens is not vouchered. And I knew I was confidently looking at Quercus burbidifolia. And you can check my spotlight video on that for some of the characteristics on the California scrub oak. But I believe San Diego County, parts of Riverside County are probably your best bets for Quercus acutidens. I believe Quercus acutidens outnumbers Quercus burbidifolia here in San Diego County. A lot of the vouchers that were for Quercus burbidifolia might actually be Quercus acutidens, and possibly Quercus dumosa as well. So I've seen this a lot here in the coastal canyons of San Diego County, and I've also seen it in Orange County in the Santa Ana Mountains, a more blue grayish green leaf form that resembles more of the Engelmann oak over along Long Canyon Road near the Los Pinos Hot Shots, and that's near the Blue Jay Campground area of Cleveland National Forest up in Orange County. And that you can get Long Canyon Road off of Ortega Highway. So you take Ortega Highway and you get up to near the Los Pinos Hot Shots fire camp, and then if you walk down a little bit carefully along Long Canyon Road, you'll see a really large thicket of scrub oaks that have very large leaves, like these, and also have the bluish gray cast that seems to be the Engelmann oak, like the Engelmann oak color, the more bluish cast. And there might be some of these along the San Juan Trail that look like Engelmann oaks too. So this might be found along the San Juan Trail in Orange County. Those might be Engelmann oaks, or they might be these. I've passed by them, and they were more upright like trees, but they were very small statured. So it's kind of hard for me to tell whether those were actual Engelmanns or Quercus acutidens. I'm leaning towards acutidens, but I would have to go back to that area and scout it out. So there you have it. Beautiful Torrey's scrub oak, Quercus acutidens, here in Navajo Canyon, here in beautiful San Diego. This is a very highly anticipated episode of Spotlights, meaning I really eagerly was anticipating finally recording this video, and I hope you guys get a sense of awe that I get when looking at this awesome shrub/small tree here in Southern California. That will do it for my spotlight. I hope you enjoyed it and got the itch to come out here and check them out. Quercus acutidens, Torrey scrub oak. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on another episode of Spotlight.